Welcome everyone to the CIRCit webinar series. How to identify the key stakeholders to be involved when designing circular value chains, and how to establish win-win partnerships. Those are two of the questions that we're going to be discussing in today's webinar, when we will provide a number of insights into how to collaborate and network for circular economy, providing a step-by-step approach and a number of tools and templates. But first, let me introduce you to the CIRCit project. The CIRCit project aims to accelerate the transition to circular economy in the Nordic industry. Over the last 3.5 years, more than 70 companies and organizations across the 5 Nordic countries have been engaged in the development of the tools presented by the CIRCit project and approaches across 6 main focus areas. And a little bit about me, I'm Marina Pieroni. I am a PhD researcher at the Technical University of Denmark. I've been researching about circular economy in the previous 3 years, and I'm one of the colleagues involved in the CIRCit project. Today, I'll be facilitating this webinar. It will last no more than 30 minutes. And today, our goal is to provide an overview of the workbook 6 in CIRCit that you can see there on the screen, which is about collaborate and network for a circular economy and key lessons learned. Fenna Blomsma was our colleague, the main researcher behind workbook 6. Fenna is currently professor for circular economy and systems innovation at Hamburg University. She could not be here with us today, but Daniela Pigosso, who is Associate Professor for Sustainable Design and Circular Economy at the Technical University of Denmark, and one of the co-leads of the CIRCit project, will present the content of Workbook 6 for us. Many thanks, Daniela, for being here today. We are all very much looking forward to learning more about how to collaborate and network for circular economy.
Thanks for the introduction, Marina. So today we're going to dive into Workbook 6, which aims to understand how we can collaborate and network for a circular economy. In the workbook, what you can find is a very detailed step-by-step process which guide companies in understanding what are the different stakeholders in the value chain, how to establish partnerships, and then how to actually start running the circular models. So let's have a look into that together. If we start looking at the workbook 6, there will be an explanation of the overall process for designing and developing circular value chains. The process has 3 main steps. Everything starts by understanding what is the circular economy strategy that we want to focus. For those of you that participated in the previous webinars, you could see that we developed a scanner with a number of different strategies, and that is basically the starting point for this project. What is that we want to implement? Is that a remanufacturing system? Is that maybe a system that will allow us to provide services instead of selling products? Or is that maybe a recycling system? Defining that is really key because it will provide the guidance for all the other 3 steps in the process. Then, as soon as we know what we want to do, the first question to ask is, what is in it for our key stakeholders? How can we find the right argumentations to bring key partners along the value chain to collaborate together with us to deliver this given circular strategy? As soon as we know who are the partners that we want to engage, the next step is to try to understand how the new ecosystem will look like. What are the new partnerships and the new connections that we need to make, either with existing stakeholders or with completely new stakeholders. As soon as we have an overview about how the ecosystem will look like, then the third step is to actually start defining in a very detailed way, how do we want to work with all the different stakeholders in this value chain? And what are the different flows of information, knowledge, and money going across the different stakeholders? With those 3 steps in place, we should then be able to start developing this new business ecosystem and putting all of our ideas into practice. You're going to see that in this workbook, we have defined one specific process for each one of those 3 main steps. And to support their implementation, there's actually 12 different tools available in the website. I'm going to show them in a second to you, where you can, in a very hands-on workshop approach, engage all different stakeholders in establishing these new value chains. Let's have a look on how those different steps look like. So if we go to the first one, this is where we want to define what are the benefits for the different stakeholders in the value chain for implementing that given strategy. Everything starts with a mapping of the current system. And the basic idea here is to create a very good overview of what are the current stakeholders that we are relating to, and that can actually be working together with us to deliver this new value proposition. What we do then, on the basis of that, is to do a value mapping for those stakeholders. And our main goal here is to understand in what way the circular economy strategy that we want to implement, let's say remanufacturing, can be attractive for each and every stakeholder that we have a collaboration with today. It really helps in order to understand where our argumentations can take place, but also what are the stakeholders might be more likely to engage with us in those collaborations. As soon as we know that, we move to the stakeholder exploration step. And the main goal here is to really explore all the different opportunities that can be created if we start to look into new partners, or if we start to look into whether new entities could be created to deliver value to us. Let me show you the tool that can support us in that step. This is the stakeholder exploration tool. It's the main idea here is to look into different positions of the value chain from a supply point of view to an operation point of view, and then the demand point of view as well, and try to explore. Let me give you a big zoom here. Where are the knowledge and capabilities that we have available at our company today that can be used to deliver the circular economy strategy, but also looking into what are the capabilities and knowledge that we can have access to by looking to existing stakeholders, as we did before, but also looking into what are new stakeholders that we could involve. And here there are 3 main models that we could follow. The first one would be to look at existing partners and trying to understand how we can create new relationships with them, with the basic idea here of delivering this new circular economy strategy. That's option number 1. Option number 2 would be to try to understand how we can maybe create new partnerships with existing stakeholders in our value chain. So let's say that we have a partner today in the value chain that is basically doing logistics for us. And they are doing forward logistics. So they are delivering products from our company to our customers. Could maybe a new partnership be established with this partner so that they can also do the reverse logistics or taking products from our customers back to the company? This could be option number 2. And then finally, the third option when looking into those collaborations would be to work together with public organizations or with NGOs or with other companies to create completely new entities that could actually support us in delivering the value proposition. Here in Denmark, for instance, we have the packaging return system for beverage. And this was actually established as a collaboration among many different stakeholders in the value chain that together wanted to have access to end-of-use packaging to be able to recycle them and put them back in the market. So this is option number 3. If you look in the website, you can of course download the stakeholder exploration, and here you have a very detailed step-by-step approach on how to apply the tool and all the downloads for the template. But let's get back to our process. So this was, as I mentioned to you, part of step 3 of this first phase, in order to understand what are the different partnerships that we can establish in the value chain. As soon as we've done that, we'll probably come with a number of different ideas and a number of different opportunities that could be implemented. And then the next step is actually to cluster them together to try to find synergies among them and trying to bring groups of stakeholders together. And then, as in any ideation process, we also need to prioritize those opportunities. And that's basically the idea of the final step in this phase, that is to understand how we can prioritize and select the clusters that we want to work further in the next phase of the process. And if we move then to the next phase, we have 3 main steps here. The first step is to do a circular value chain activity cycle. The basic idea here is to, from the clusters that we prioritized in the first step, to understand where and how the opportunities could be captured. And there's also a very nice tool that can help you in doing that. Let me show you here. So the basic idea of the circular value chain activity cycle is to look into 3 main phases. The pre-phase, this is before we get in contact with a given stakeholder. The during phase, that's when we are in contact and we are having a number of different activities together. And then also the post phase, after we've had the contact. And the idea here, when looking into opportunities, is to focus on 3 main areas. The first one are the activities that we can and could develop together for each one of the 3 phases, the needs that we can address by collaborating and by implementing those activities, and then also the definition of the responsibilities among the different stakeholders, and also the specific role that each one of us is going to play. This is done for each one of the clusters that we prioritized before. It really helps to be very clear about what is the value that we want to deliver, what are the needs that we are addressing, and how we can address those needs as well. And as I mentioned before, you find all the details about how to do that in the website as well. Going back to the phase 2 steps, as soon as we have met this activity cycle, then we look for best practices. So the idea here is to find how we can actually get inspired from other value chain constellations out there to build our own. This serves as a startup for the co-creation process that we have with those key stakeholders, and that happens in the 3rd step, that is the co-creation and the keystone activities scan. As soon as we've done that, then we are going to have a very good idea about what are the areas that we want to collaborate, who are the stakeholders that we want to collaborate with, and also what are the main benefits that we expect to have from this collaboration. And at this time, we are then ready to move to the phase 3, that is the final phase that we have in this process. And in phase 3, we have 4 final steps that starts with looking to each one of those key activity cycles that we have developed just before, and trying to understand how we could develop the circular value chain activity cycle. So the idea here would be to look into what are all the opportunities for closing the flows of materials and energy, so that we can actually reach the decoupling of value creation and resource consumption. As soon as we have done it for each one of the keystone activities that we defined before, then we move into the co-creation learnings finder. And the main idea here is to try to understand what will change for each one of the stakeholders that we want to involve in this value chain when we implement the key activities that we have defined. And here it's important to keep in mind that for some stakeholders, it's going to be a win-win situation, and then the collaboration will really go in the right direction. But that there might also be some stakeholders that are today in our value chain and that will have no role to play in the circular value chain. And then we also need to understand how to manage that. The next step after we've done it and understand what changes from the perspective of the different stakeholders is to start planning what are the different pilots, experiments, or prototypes that we could implement to test assumptions that we might have made, but also to start understanding how our ideas can be implemented in practice. And this is a very iterative process that involves developing a number of assumptions, going out into the market, trying them out, bringing learnings back so that we can refine our value chain to a level that we are actually ready for implementation. And in the final step of this process, the basic idea is to define what's the timeline, so what's the roadmap that we want to follow, how many iterations we want to have along this process, and also when do we expect to launch the new offering, the new service, the new remanufacturing offering based on the establishment of the value chain behind that. And after having gone through all of those steps, you will know what is your value chain looking like, what's the value that you can deliver for each and every stakeholder, and also how to implement that in practice. Again, there are 12 different tools in the workbook that can help you with that. Let me just show you quickly here. So if you go to the CIRCit webpage and then you go into project focal areas and you select the focal area number 6, you're going to come to this page where you basically have an overall description about the focal areas, what are the key outcomes that you get by applying them, and the workbook that you can download or check it through the online version. And then here you also see all the different tools that are available to support the process. Basically, for every and each step that we just went through together, there's one specific tool and a template that can support you in moving forward, engaging stakeholders in a very workshop, hands-on activity. So yeah, I hope it provided you with a good overview about the workbook and the different possibilities there, and that it can really help you in establishing more circular value chains. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Daniela. We have many questions already from our participants here. So the first one is related to the very beginning of the workbook where you mentioned the value mapping. When you talk about value in this situation, is it only economic value or other kinds of value are also associated and are part of this value mapping?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a very good question. I would say that the economic value is for sure an important value to be taken into account, but it's not the only type of value that we consider. So if we look into the different value categories, we could say that we're looking into value to customers, and this could be economic, but could also be environmental value. We are looking into values to society, that in that case would be more social oriented values. We are looking into values for suppliers and partners, and also into values for investors and stakeholders. And all of them we look from a environmental, social, and economic point of view. And that's important in order to avoid a burden shift from one type of value to the other.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then regarding after the process where you've identified value, there are a couple of questions, maybe 3 questions related to how to apply this value mapping in the workbook. Should the collaborations be focused only within the same value chain that the company already have, or to other across value chains? And should it be focusing on only current partners, or is it possible to identify new partners and engage new partners as well?
Yeah, I think that one key idea to keep in mind here is that it's important to think out of the box. Of course, looking to existing partners and in the existing value chain that you are in might be the place to start, but I would say you should not end there. There might be lots of opportunities if you look into other value chains that are maybe not directly connected to yours, but that can bring some stakeholders with key capabilities and knowledge that you need to have in place. And also looking into maybe other entities, as I mentioned before about the Danish example with the beverage packaging return system. Looking into whether you can join forces with other stakeholders to create new entities that didn't exist before, but it's maybe the gap that needs to be in place for you to be able to deliver your circular economy strategy. Remember that there might be opportunities in many different areas. And I guess you are probably going to find lots of opportunities that you didn't really expect to be there before you start thinking about that in a systematic way. And that's exactly what these process and those tools help you with.
Yeah, thank you for that. And within that aspect of finding new partners or finding new entities or creating new entities, have you experienced in the project the opposite situation where there is some stakeholder in the value chain that suddenly doesn't have a role anymore to play in the new configuration? What kind of advice could you provide to the companies to deal with these stakeholders?
Yeah, I would say that this happens, and it can happen more often at the time that we start to innovate your business models. So let's say that today you are a manufacturing company, that you develop products and you sell those products to a large number of customers through retailers. This is your main model. So you have your main company, you have a number of retailers, and they are the ones reaching to your end customers. Now, let's say that you have seen an opportunity to implement a product service system, which means that you are not selling your products anymore, but you are delivering them as a service directly to your customers. All of a sudden, all of this network of retailers that you had a very good relationship with, they have not a clear role to play anymore, because you can basically be in contact directly with your customers through the service systems. So in those cases, you might need to look into how to develop a new role for all of those different stakeholders in the retail industry. Or you might need to find a way to finish the collaboration with them in a way that it's still professional and still in a win-win situation.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
It might be challenging for some stakeholders. There will be new players coming along, but for sure there will also be some players that will not be relevant anymore. And then the companies need to understand how to manage that in the best possible way.
Yep. And I think that goes along with another question that we have, which is asking how to shift and balance between the value chain conceptualization and development towards this new CE solution. So there is the transition period where you would have to balance and shift, and I think you touched some of those aspects already. And regarding these tools that you've shown us today, have you tested them all in companies?
Yeah, so they have all been developed in collaboration with a number of companies that were our co-creation companies. We've been engaged together with them in a number of workshops with key stakeholders from the company. So we have some good evidence that they work in practice. Of course, there might be that for a specific application, you might need to customize them to your specific type of product, company size, sector that you are working with, and so forth. But yes, we did have a good experience when co-developing these tools with companies.
Yeah, and maybe
And
can you?
Anna has been the main person behind that, as Marina mentioned in the beginning.
Yep. If you could maybe share with us from these experiences and other experiences, what do you think, in your opinion, are the key barriers for collaborating within a CE context?
Yeah, I would say that trust is extremely important to be in place for any kind of collaboration. That's also the case if we talk about circular economy collaboration. And trust leads to, for example, data sharing among many different stakeholders to ensure that you are delivering the best value. One of the barriers there is that there might be some companies in the value chain that are not willing to share data in an open way. And this can be a go, no go for some types of projects. So having those agreements from the beginning, making sure where my responsibility and my role starts and ends is very important to ensure that we do have this trust in place so that the different partners can understand how to deliver value in the best possible way.
Yep. Thank you for that. And then related to barriers, going more specific into the type of companies, do you think that from the experience that you've seen in the project in CIRCit project that small and medium enterprises could be lagging behind in creating, developing new partnerships because they have a reduced size and maybe less influence in the current or traditional value chains? What do you see in relation to company size?
Yeah, I would say that bigger companies tend to have, of course, a bigger power when trying to negotiate in the value chain. And it has been traditionally like that, and it's the same for circular economy as well. But on the other side, if we look at disruptions in the value chain, we see that most of them are coming from smaller companies that have very good ideas on how they can reinvent the system. They are extremely flexible to change according to needs and according to learnings. And they also have a very strong power of bringing different types of stakeholders together. So I would say that there might be advantages or disadvantages depending on if you are a small or a bigger company, but all sizes can actually start the movement in their own value chain. There might be different strategies and different directions where to start and how to engage, but we actually see this coming from both large and well-established companies, but also from small and medium companies, and even from startups that can really come with an innovation perspective there.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very interesting, and we need all the efforts there to make the transition. And a very quick and final question. Are you planning to create some platform on which we can continue to collaborate with various stakeholders or companies in your area?
Yeah, so we don't have any plans for that in the CIRCit project, but we know that there are many existing platforms and innovation networks out there that you could join. I think it's a very good idea to do so because then you find open-minded people that probably have similar goals and similar strategic directions to yours. I would also recommend looking to the innovation hubs of universities. Like at DTU, we have the DTU Skylab that is also trying to make those links between students, startups, small companies, and large companies that can together go for a bigger innovation. And if you are not in Denmark, I would just encourage you to have a look at what are the networks available in your region, in your country, and then try to engage there, because I'm sure you're going to find lots of opportunities when you do so.
Yes, with that was our final question here today, Daniela. Thank you very much for your time and your contribution explaining beautifully Workbook 6. And maybe now you would like to share some final messages with everyone.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Marina, for facilitating the workshop today. As you know, this is the last webinar in a series of 7 webinars that we had over the last 2 weeks or so. It's been really nice to be with you all during this time to share the key outcomes from this CIRCit project. We have just uploaded all the webinars into our website. So if you didn't have the chance to watch the webinars live, you are very welcome to watch the recordings. And if you have any additional questions, please contact us. To find the webinars into our website, you just need to go to results and then films, and then you basically come to this page where the 6 first webinars are already there, and we'll be adding the new ones. Remember to continue having a look into the CIRCit webpage. We will be adding new tools over the next few months, as Ivan, for example, mentioned in relation to the smart circular economy. There will be coming also public science dissemination articles and also scientific articles that might be relevant for you. And I'd say that the last invitation that I have to make to you is in relation to the final workshop. As I've been talking to you over the last webinars, we are carrying out a hands-on workshop here in Copenhagen in September. And the idea is also to have hubs in all the different Nordic countries where you can attend physically as well. It's also possible, of course, to attend online. And if you have the interest, just come to our website in the news and then click here. We have a pre-registration form that you can document your interest, and then we're going to send you more information in due time. So I really hope that you have enjoyed the webinar series, that you've got some more inspiration about how to make this transition from a linear to a circular economy, and that you feel more ready now to start the transition. And please remember to keep in contact with us in case you have any ideas for collaboration, any questions, or any comments. We would be very happy to hear from you. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much for today and for the last 2 weeks together. And we keep in contact. Thank you. Bye-bye.